We stand on the precipice of monumental change in American college athletics. For years, the NCAA has profited off the blood, sweat, and tears of its young, mainly black players under the guise of student athletes and scholarships.
They're not employees, they're students.
All while skyrocketing into a $14 billion industry. I myself was one of the exploited, and I'm here to show you how the NCAA operates as a modern cartel, banking cash while making sure the kids on the field never see a cent.
They don't want the payers to get paid, period.
There's an awful lot of people getting filthy rich off of college sports right now.
I don't know how you can't draw that through line from like slavery to Jim Crow to the NCAA.
It's exploitative. In some ways, it's even predatory.
The pandemic has revealed the stark reality of a money-making machine that puts profits above all else.
Something about that is wrong. What are your plans to address these things that are patently unacceptable?
While COVID closed campuses and students were sent home, so-called student athletes took to the field. And while the battle rages on about college athletes making money,
I'm not in favor of paying student athletes. I just don't see where that will ever work.
The NCAA seems all too willing to demand kids pay for the privilege of playing with their lives.
A Cal U football player has died.
The future of college sports hangs in the balance.
The NCAA has been holding them back for so long. They're going to get a little mad and revolt against them.
The tide is turning against them and they have to do something.
It's literally indentured servitude.
There's something wrong here.
My name is Jeremy Bloom. At 15 years of age, I made the United States ski team. At 19, I was an Olympian and a world champion skier.
He's a mogul skier, one of the best in the world.
At 20, I was an All-American football player for the University of Colorado.
Jeremy Bloom to the 20, to the 15, the 10, the 5, touchdown!
2 years later, the NCAA forced me out, and I decided to turn pro.
And at 24, I was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles.
You want to be an Eagle?
You know I do.
I do hold the distinction of being the only athlete in history to both ski in the Olympics and be drafted into the NFL, which really were two of my biggest childhood dreams.
I want to try to go to the Olympics and win a gold medal in skiing.
Every time I come back, there's just this slew of memories that I replay in my head.
Bloom goes by for the touchdown!
94 yards for a touchdown reception, which was the longest catch in CU history.
What a debut for Bloom!
I loved going to school here.
There's something beautiful about college sports. The players are still young and in that awkward place between childhood and adulthood.
And the dismount double layout.
Where emotions are right on the surface and can dictate outcomes in a way not seen when the same sport is played by professionals.
Here come the Irish!
The fans are also special, tied to the players by the university or college's history and a shared love for the institution they all choose to make their home for 4 years.
Whose broad stripes
And watching over this uniquely American spectacle is an association that has taken everything that's great and special about college sports and reduced it down to a single deciding factor. The players don't get paid.
There's not even a salary to debate. They're not employees, they're students.
And I should know, I'm one of the victims of this prime directive of the NCAA. Given how focused it is on keeping athletes uncompensated financially for playing, it might not be surprising to learn that the NCAA was founded at a time when the one thing most collegiate athletes didn't need was money.
An Army touchdown in 2 minutes flat.
The concept of amateurism has always been a sham. When amateurism was first brought to college sports, it was essentially what it was in England, which was a mechanism for the moneyed elites not to have to play against the common man, the unwashed masses. If you couldn't afford to play, then the moneyed elites would win everything, and it would just be gentlemen playing against gentlemen, which is exactly what it was when the NCAA started. It was the handlebarred, mustachioed white men running the Ivy League that brought amateurism to college sports.
But there was one thing their money couldn't buy. Playing college football was killing dozens of these rich young gentlemen each year.
The National Collegiate Athletic Association was born out of a crisis, a football crisis to be specific. There were concerns about violence on the field and the optics of that, but also the health and safety of the players. So the president at the time, Theodore Roosevelt, summoned the presidents of Harvard, Yale, and Princeton to the White House and was like, hey, get your house in order. Like, this is bad. We're getting bad publicity about this. And so that was kind of the Cliff Notes version of the origin moment of the National Collegiate Athletic Association.
The NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, was founded 115 years ago around the number one rule of amateurism. College athletes could not earn money playing sports because it would destroy the so-called sanctity of the games they played.
If, again, the people who are going to college don't have concerns about money because they're the children of the elite. Playing games, amateur ethos is very much about separating the elite class from the rest. We signal our class status by playing games for the love of it, sport for sport's sake. And if you take money, money is bad, and we are not those people. We play sport the right way.
But those days are long gone. College sports are no longer being exclusively played by rich white kids. It's a change that has helped grow collegiate athletics into a $14 billion a year industry. The big money didn't happen overnight. In the early 1980s, a landmark Supreme Court decision transformed college sports into a cash machine for the colleges.
The U.S. Supreme Court today issued a ruling that goes right to the bottom line of one of America's biggest businesses, college football.
The ruling stripped the NCAA of its power to negotiate college football contracts with the TV networks.
College sports went into this, I think, professional sports area around 1984 when the Oklahoma Board of Regents case was decided by the Supreme Court, and conferences started selling their media rights to media partners, and now every game's on television. The money has exploded.
So now the universities are in the position to make their own deals, to be on TV every Saturday, to band together as conferences and cut deals with ESPN. And don't forget, at the same time this was happening, ESPN was a relatively new television station that desperately needed content.
Hello, I'm Bob Lee. You're a poet now? I'm trying. I'm Chris Berman. The Sports Center is next.
ESPN was not built on pro sports. ESPN was built on college basketball and college football because they were willing to spend the money knowing that this could be their future.
Yeah. Well, it should be a classic matchup. College basketball, excitement, enthusiasm.
Now, March Madness, the annual college basketball tournament held each spring, nets the NCAA $1 billion alone. Add in other moneymakers like merchandise and ticket sales, and the NCAA of yesteryear, with its Ivy League crew sweaters and campus cheer clubs, has been replaced by a professional cash juggernaut.
And that was intentional. That didn't happen by accident. The buildup of this multi-billion-dollar industry was done purposefully and intentionally. And, the NCAA acts like they won the lottery or something, and we have all this money now, what do we do with it? And that's not what happened.
Headquartered in Indianapolis, the NCAA has a staff of 700 paid employees who oversee athletic competition for over 1,200 member schools and institutions, deciding the rules and regulations which govern almost 500,000 unpaid collegiate athletes.
The salaries have exploded. The size of athletic departments has exploded. And facilities spending has exploded, but there's no spending control in any area of college sports with the exception of the money that's provided to an athlete.
You make the school a lot of money, you make the conference a lot of money, you make the NCAA a lot of money.
NCAA athletes, the workers on the field who fans pay to see, don't earn a dime for their efforts. College sports in America is a big business, and its profit margins are made even larger by the most talented employees working for free.
These schools print money off of the athletic programs, and it's on the backs of these students.
The money that's being made off of us on the outside, there's billions that gets generated on that level. Okay, like where is that money going?
So let's put this into perspective. College athletics is now a $14 billion annual business. $14 billion. So if you map that back to corporate America, that's not just a publicly traded company. That's a company in the S&P 500. What's the difference? they don't pay their employees. So there's no salaries for student athletes. There's no 401k benefits. All these things that innovative tech companies and most corporations are offering because they're not cut into the profit system. And not only are they not cut into the profits, they're precluded from entering any free market and signing endorsement deals. And this is how the system has been run for the past several decades.
People are getting over it. Everybody can see that this system is flawed. That's why they have to bend their logic in order to make it work.
Show me an area in all of American business where it is a billion-dollar industry and the people who create the wealth or a sizable amount of the wealth get nothing.
It's hard to distinguish between the NFL and big-time college football. It's hard to distinguish amongst salaries for coaches. In some cases, college coaches are actually making more than some NFL coaches.
And so we have been brainwashed by the NCAA thinking that we're amateur athletes. If I'm an amateur athlete, then so is my coach, but he's getting paid $6 million a year and he's being sponsored by Lexus. It's just the stupidest argument in the world.
It's hard to distinguish between facilities. You look at some of these facilities, Clemson's facilities, Oregon's facilities, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
The majority of Division I schools spend over $100 million annually on sports, and some programs, like the University of Texas and Ohio State, exceed $200 million per year.
The biggest evolution has been the amount of money and where that money goes. It goes to pay administrators and it goes to pay coaches and make this enterprise bigger and bigger.
Fancy locker rooms and gyms are used to lure top high school recruits like Rafael Castro. Castro is a star player from New Jersey who will play Division I NCAA basketball next year.
The recruiting process, it kicked off my junior year. Florida reached out, Providence reached out, Miami reached out, Texas reached out, VCU.
While being recruited, Rafael saw some of the big money schools use their fancy facilities to attract kids like him.
It kind of looked futuristic, I'm not gonna lie. So when I saw that, I was just like, wow, like, if I get injured on a game, you know, I could just get in the facility room and recover. The recovery room is crazy.
NFL facilities can't compete with college facilities.
The NFL facilities aren't as good as college facilities.
Oh, no. Well, they don't have anything to prove. They're like, yo, we're here.
They're trying to recruit you.
We're going to pay you. It is what it is. And you're like, cool. Over there, it's like, you got all the bells and whistles, and you walk in, you're like, oh, this is for me? No, it's not. It's not for you, though.
They make you feel like you have the power. You know, the way they recruit you, and they bring you to the school, and they're making you feel like when you get there, it's about you, when really it's more for the school than it is for the actual player.
There's an arms race. There's an absolute arms race, and it's ironic that they're willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to attract recruits when they could spend a fraction of that just paying the recruit.
So what's the differentiation between the NFL and big-time college football? The people on the field aren't getting paid. They play for a scholarship.
When I think about the NCAA, I basically think about injustice. Football and basketball players are the only students recruited to the university for the sole purpose of making them money. Just in purely economic terms, what the NCAA truly is a cartel that exists to depress wages.
Seeing the recruiting business firsthand, top high school recruit Isaiah Todd gave up his full-ride scholarship to join the paid NBA minor leagues instead.
I wanted to be different. I wanted to choose a different path and take a bet on myself. College basketball was always going to be a business. They see players as kind of like coming in and leaving like a factory, and you just become a face.
This is a perversion of the free market. It's monopolistic behavior. It is disadvantaging the people that are creating the value and creating the wealth. And it violates sort of all of our sort of norms, ideals, philosophies of governance and society.
The NCAA's single-minded obsession to keep athletes from being paid has resulted in collegiate sports being seen by many as one of the most unfair and oppressive organizations ever let loose on the young, oftentimes underprivileged athletes of America.
The NCAA has been holding them back for so long. They're more than just somebody you can just use on Saturday or use on game day. We know that we are bringing in these universities millions of dollars. And just because we left these ghetto areas, just because we left these impoverished areas, does not mean that people don't have a voice.
And as we'll show you, the NCAA is merciless when athletes say or do anything that the NCAA decides violates their rules.
Reggie Bush. The school was ordered to permanently disassociate from him.
A large number of college athletes have been shattered by a corrupt system that seeks to keep them in line and unpaid at all costs.
It was tough. I'm not gonna lie, I cried a lot of nights. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but
I noticed my phone was blowing up, and I realized that I was a part of this NCAA scandal and investigation. To take away your college career without even giving you a phone call was devastating.
Making matters even worse is that these college athletes suffer the indignities of no pay and unjust treatment while putting their lives on the line to play the sport that they love.
It was life-changing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll just wake up in the middle of the night, you know, fully in pain in my leg, and it's because I got a metal rod.
Coming up, some of the most outrageous ways the NCAA has punished players who dare to step out of line.
They don't care about us. We're all like kind of slaves to their system.
Plus,
I know I did. I took illegal benefits every chance I got.
in the early 20th century, the NCAA was founded in America to keep college athletes safe. Along with safety, they pledged that athletes must always play as amateurs. Getting paid to play, they argued, would make them professionals and corrupt the system. But when the old college games of yesteryear started to look more like professional leagues with billions of dollars being made, the NCAA has become even more focused on the rules of so-called amateurism. Everyone gets to make money except the athletes on the field, and any talk of changing that is met with a chorus of objections.
My next guest says that paying students is wrong, and he's got some pretty credible credentials of his own.
Before graduating UCLA Law School, Cody McDavis played college basketball at Northern Colorado. He believes putting endorsement money directly into the hands of players could have unintended consequences.
I'm worried that it's all going to go the place that it's always gone, men's basketball and football. We do this within athletic departments now, and we talk about men's basketball and football. No other sport, period, generates a profit on a routine basis, period. Just because this is opened, it doesn't mean that it's going to change the equity and the opportunities for other sports not named men's basketball and football.
All this stuff, these doomsday prognostications and scenarios are all crap. They've been crap forever.
Jay Bilas, nice catch, good fake.
Former Duke basketball player and assistant coach Jay Bilas rejects the idea that the future of non-revenue college sports, like women's volleyball and gymnastics, can be protected by stopping the flow of money to the guys playing football and basketball.
Women's sports are at the whim of men's revenue generation. That offends my sensibilities, and I would think most reasonable people would be offended by that too. This is going to ruin everything. We're going to have to cut sports. Women's sports are going to be hurt. It's so condescending when you think about it, as if women are sitting around going, well, I certainly hope the men can continue to play so we can get the money that we can play. You know what? We're going to have women's sports whether men generate revenue or not, because women's sports are important.
UCLA gymnast Caitlin Ohashi became an internet sensation when this video of her floor routine at the NCAA gymnastics semifinal went viral in 2019.
The next day was when it was like, what was even happening? It was like 100,000 followers up already. I took it off social media for a little bit because it was just overwhelming. Ticket sales actually went up across the country in college sports, so we were selling out at every arena we went to that year.
The video now has over 150 million views, but NCAA rules prevented Ohashi from cashing in on a potential six-figure payout.
It would have helped kind of change my entire life, honestly.
Bilas says women athletes earn just like the men and should be compensated alongside them.
Whether it's Paige Beckers of UConn or Missy Franklin or Caitlin Ohashi, you name it. Earning power of women is enormous out in the marketplace. And we're denying them that for what reason? What is the benefit to anyone from amateurism.
For years, the NCAA and its defenders have claimed that the scholarship athletes receive is the compensation, a free ride for their work on the playing field.
They're still a good enough team, and I think they were better than the Washington Redskins.
Barrett Brooks, who after college played 12 years in the NFL, winning a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers, challenges this notion that the scholarship is free.
You're asking this guy, hey, we want you to take time, come to our school, practice every day. We want your blood, sweat, and tears. But hey, we're giving you a free scholarship. It doesn't sound free to me. It doesn't sound free at all. It's more than a full-time job. It's like having two full-time jobs. I mean, it was a lot harder to be a college athlete than it was to be an NFL athlete.
When I hear coaches or athletic directors or something like that say, well, they get a free education, I'm like, okay. Well, yeah, it's not free. And if that's what you think the exchange is for what you're getting, then those guys are working for about 5 cents an hour.
Actor Joel McHale would know. Before hosting talk shows and starring in shows like Community, he was a walk-on football player at the University of Washington.
I was not good, but I made the starting defense feel very good about themselves. Some people think in college, it's just this thing, you go to class, it's fine, you have a party. These guys have a full-time job that is way more than 40 hours a week, plus school. You had to schedule all your classes in the morning, and then the rest of the day was taken up with practice and meetings, and then you did the whole thing over again. And if you were traveling, you traveled on a Thursday or Friday to have that Saturday game, and then they came back that night, and then it's, rehab and more meetings and more homework.
And you're trying to keep that up while the other kids have all those other hours. You have to be exceptional beyond belief to be able to maintain a grade with those other kids in that competitive world.
Only 2% of football and men's basketball players ever become professional athletes, and the rest of them, sadly, often end up not graduating.
Most people like to make the joke of I majored in tennis, I majored in football, because really you tend to spend more time on your sport than you do academics.
But the classes that you take can't deter from you being at practice. A lot of guys couldn't take certain classes that had to be taken for what they wanted to graduate with.
It just shows you that the whole system is rigged in a bad way.
It's just like, we know why we're here. I knew why I was there. It was my pathway to the league.
Number one, baby, number one!
Fans don't want to hear because it takes away from the sort of magic of being able to just watch them compete on the field, be excited about it, and then go on about their days.
If athletes are unable to properly access the college education that comes with a scholarship, they're being denied the one piece of supposed compensation the NCAA system says they're receiving. At the University of North Carolina, an investigation revealed that for 15 years, the athletic department had been funneling football and basketball players into fake classes for easy A's.
Academic fraud that lasted for nearly 2 decades and included bogus classes where students didn't even need to show up.
And the NCAA looked the other way because that's not illegal. It was not against NCAA rules. And that was, again, purposeful and intentional.
The NCAA agreed that UNC was guilty of running one of the worst academic fraud schemes in college sports history, but said their rules governing sport weren't violated. This was purely an academic issue. So shockingly, no sanctions followed.
Now, that doesn't mean what happened at North Carolina wasn't wrong. It was profoundly wrong, but it wasn't against the NCAA's rules. And curiously enough, they haven't changed the rules.
The NCAA saves its toughest rules and harshest penalties for those college athletes who violate the sanctity of amateurism by having the audacity to get compensated for their talents. Reggie Bush is a great example, a star athlete who made big money for the NCAA and unfairly received a severe punishment.
Reggie's a phenomenal dude, he USC running back, Heisman Trophy winner.
The 2005 Heisman Trophy winner, Reggie Bush, is expected to be stripped of the award by the end of the month.
He had his Heisman taken away because he evidently worked out a deal or received some gifts, that weren't NCAA approved.
The NCAA says that former sports agent Lloyd Lake gave Reggie Bush's family an improper payment in hopes that he would represent Reggie after college. a story that broke years later when Lake received a six-figure settlement from Bush after suing to get the money back.
Well, I saw Reggie Bush as yet another sacrificial lamb in the process, that he was sacrificed on the altar of the NCAA and of amateurism. I've never thought that was right or fair.
Why would he have to be punished like that?
I would not have given it back. I don't care what anybody says. That's my Heisman Trophy. I earned it. Reggie Bush did not cheat. He didn't take performance-enhancing drugs. He didn't go on the field and cheat in any way.
Think about it for a second. Think about how many millions of dollars Reggie Bush made USC. His jersey, top-selling jersey. He was on the headlines of every newspaper. So he alone bringing in millions and millions and millions of dollars for the system. And he gets his Heisman Trophy taken away from him. It's just crazy.
They get somebody in their crosshairs like Reggie Bush, they're going to make an example out of this one, an example out of that one. I think the NCAA and the whole structure owes him an apology.
To understand how getting paid overshadows any other rule violation for schools and the NCAA, consider this. At USC, Reggie's Heisman is no longer on display inside their Heritage Hall, but O.J. Simpson's award is there for any student to admire.
People see this and they say, there's something wrong here, especially when the NCAA is cracking down on players for the stupidest little infractions, and it doesn't compute.
Coming up.
My name's Tim Nevius. I'm a former NCAA investigator. Your job is to ask questions and uncover potential rule violations.
This NCAA insider tells us how the organization can use its complex set of rules to arbitrarily take away a student athlete's entire collegiate career.
I realized I was a part of this NCAA scandal, and I was quite confusing at first, to be honest. I didn't understand, what I had done wrong.
College sports is a $14 billion industry, but the athletes who take the field to compete, inspiring awe and admiration in the fans who pay to see them, do not see any of the profits. Instead, the NCAA chases down any athlete who violates their sacred code of amateurism with a furious zeal. To understand why the NCAA punishes students like this, we spoke to a former insider from their enforcement department.
My name's Tim Nevius. I'm a former NCAA investigator. Your job is to essentially ask questions and uncover potential rule violations. I traveled to college campuses around the country and helped enforce a 400-page rule book that largely denies athletes the right to profit from their talents. It's a 400-page rule book, and it is, in a lot of ways, draconian.
One of the more ridiculous NCAA rules includes the bagel rule. Schools could give players bagels to eat, but were forbidden from including cream cheese or jelly. The schmear would have constituted an illegal meal.
When you work at the NCAA, you want to believe that you are working towards an ideal. And as time went by, I started to learn more about who these rules were benefiting and who they were hurting.
Nevius quit the NCAA and now fights his former employer in court, representing college athletes. NFL rookie sensation Chase Young was a recent client.
Chase Young with Ohio State now will not play this weekend against Maryland. It has to do with an NCAA violation from 2018.
In 2019, the NCAA wanted to suspend Chase Young for the entire season after a family member bought a plane ticket for Chase's girlfriend to watch him play in the Rose Bowl. To the NCAA Rules Committee, this plane ticket constituted an improper personal loan.
Chase Young, who I represented in a case, was suspended for a few games before we went through the process, and he was reinstated for the end of the season.
The students are mostly powerless. The NCAA is not equitable in its doling out of punishment.
Powerless is exactly how current pro tennis player Brittany Collins felt when the NCAA came after her.
When I was at UMass, I think the best thing was winning the 2017 Atlantic 10 conference title. I think it was the second time in UMass history in 20 years. We were in Orlando, we went to Disney as a team together afterwards. Then just the little things, being in the van together, singing on the way home after winning a match, things like that. Stronger than I've been before. Last October, I was pulling into my apartment after tennis practice, and I noticed my phone was blowing up. I'd received a few text messages from my fitness coaches. And I started to read it, and I realized that I was a part of this NCAA scandal and investigation.
Former members of the UMass women's tennis team have been sanctioned by the NCAA years after they played their final game.
It was quite confusing at first, to be honest. I didn't understand, what I had done wrong. It was a small clerical error that UMass directly deposited a stipend worth $252, essentially like a reimbursement for a landline for a phone jack. They vacated the entire 2015 to 2017 seasons, which was most of my career at UMass. Most importantly, that A10 title, it just will be erased in the record books.
Collins says she never knew the money even existed, and that her reputation has been unfairly damaged.
To take away your college career without even giving you a phone call was devastating.
There's a sad irony in the NCAA not having the courtesy to call Brittany to tell her they were taking away her college tennis career over a $252 phone bill.
It's beyond ridiculous. Why anybody in their right mind couldn't see between the lines here and say, this is of no fault of anybody's. We're going to let this slide. But they didn't. $252, the NCAA wants to make her career completely gone, vanished from the record. Who uses a landline anymore? Certainly not millennials.
They hammer the little guy, they let the big guys off the hook. There's no rhyme or reason to the penalties whatsoever.
Want to see something cool, man?
Yeah. Dang.
Oh, damn,
man.
I don't know good. That's all right.
I think that was good.
I lose a lot of footballs, man. Hopefully that one's not gone.
Donald Delahaye was a kicker at the University of Central Florida before he was forced out over a YouTube channel.
A college football kicker who's forced to choose between two things he loves.
Donald Delahaye is another interesting student athlete because he was a great kicker for UCF on scholarship, but he's also a kid with a great personality. And so he started a YouTube channel.
I kick these things so much, they don't even hold air no more. I got that leg, that's how you know I got that leg.
Before you know it, he was making money from his YouTube channel. And the NCAA found out about this. Is that right?
Yeah,
toe punch it through?
Hey, just do your thing, man.
Okay.
Just do your thing.
Don't laugh too hard, because I'm getting you on the slopes next.
Yes, sir.
How about that, huh?
What's your little kicking celebration,
How about
man?
that?
You gotta do something.
How about that?
He raised the roof. So they told me I had a meeting that morning at like 8 a.m. I shower up, get in a nice suit. I like to come to these meetings a little professional. And I walk in there and they sit me down, and it was our compliance officer and then like our head coach's right-hand man type of thing. And he was basically like, hey, so after talking to everybody, you have to make a decision. You pick your scholarship or you pick your YouTube channel. And I was just angry, and they told me I had to make a decision then and there. Like, you can't leave the office until you decide like what you want to do. So I was like, you know what, just mark me ineligible. And I was angry, I got up, walked out. And this is like a 2-story building, so I had to go down some stairs and run out the door. And before I even got out the front door, my phone lights up with a tweet, oh, NCAA marks Donald Delahaye ineligible. So it's like they kind of expected it. But I don't know, man, it was tough. I'm not gonna lie, I cried a lot of nights. I didn't know what I was gonna do.
To put this into context, Delahaye was exercising a basic right that everyone else in America has. All other students can make money on YouTube, unless you're a student athlete.
Why are you denying athletes who are some of the more insightful, creative, funny, entertaining people that are creating this opportunity? Why are you denying them the ability to monetize their talents?
There's a UCF kicker who was declared ineligible because he had a following on YouTube.
Yes.
He couldn't play college football.
Yes.
Because he had a YouTube channel.
And us as consumers are being denied.
After the NCAA made Delahaye ineligible, he lost his scholarship as well. Unable to pay his tuition, he successfully sued UCF for the right to stay in school to finish his degree.
All of it's ridiculous to me because the NCAA robbed memories that he is owed, that he'll never have. And it's not fair. It's not fair to him. It's not right. He earned those experiences, and those memories were robbed from him.
As much as the NCAA claims that everything that it does is motivated by athletes, it in fact isn't. All of its decisions are driven by money.
I mean, it's just like the mafia, you got the Godfather in NCAA, then you have, their made men at the universities, And then you got all the workers underneath them, putting in all the work and just getting told to do this and do that and do this. It all runs through the lower level people. Well, these guys have been working for so long, they're going to get a little mad and revolt against them. And I think they're getting to a point now they're going to start to revolt simply because they have more power.
If this was only about money, the NCAA might be able to rationalize their undue punishments of college athletes as actions of overzealous defenders of amateurism, rooting out corruption in their midst. But it's not just about the money. Race has made this a serious civil rights issue for many people.
This is a social justice issue because there is an equity issue here. 60% of football and men's basketball players are Black, and a majority of those players are coming from economically disadvantaged situations.
Coming up,
it's frankly an exercise in which the free labor of mostly African-American young men are making billions of dollars for a bunch of older white men. That's a civil rights issue.
Money is so much power in our society, and these are folks that have a firm grip on those dollars, and it is an extraordinary amount of money.
Critics say the skyrocketing profits of college sports is earned largely on the backs of an increasingly African-American labor force.
The NCAA limits rights and opportunities for largely young Black men while making millionaires of largely white coaches and administrators.
For many, the hypocrisy of college sports crosses a racial divide when you consider that most of the top athletes driving the revenue machine are Black, hailing from some of the most disadvantaged socioeconomic areas in the country.
It masks a racial issue that we should talk about more. African Americans are disproportionately represented in the revenue-generating sports. And so while the NCAA talks about, we have a 90% plus graduation rate, for Black men it's about 55%.
Almost all of the adults who are making the big bucks are white. All the coaches are white. All the athletic directors are white. It's frankly an exercise in which the free labor of mostly African-American young men are making billions of dollars for a bunch of older white men. That's a civil rights issue.
College sports has been called a neo-plantation system that preys on the Black youth.
The neo-plantation mentality that exists on the campuses of our country and in the NCAA. The rewards belong to the overseers and the supervisors.
NCAA sports, there's like the whiff of the plantation, right? I don't know how you can't draw that through line from like slavery to Jim Crow to the NCAA.
When I've been invited to luxury boxes and you sit there with all the opulence and all the wealth, standing up there, watching people literally working in the fields, creating all of this wealth, but seeing no share of it whatsoever. There's something about that that is wrong.
It's how you make money. You have an unpaid workforce. And there's no better way to drive profits than to have unpaid laborers. And that's exactly what the NCAA has done.
Coaches who come into these families' homes and say, I'm going to protect this person, I'm going to bring them under my wing. Then they get to campus, they're really just bodies. They're bodies that are needed to generate revenue.
I made sure that I flexed a little bit, showed the 72 a little bit.
Former NFL player Barrett Brooks experienced the hardships of these exploitative practices firsthand. In the early 90s, he helped turn Kansas State football into a moneymaker.
They hadn't won a game in 5 years before I got there. Now they're going to bowl games, getting $20 million a bowl game. And I didn't finally start liking it until I got my first check. That's when I say, hey, I love football. I love doing this.
But despite desperately needing the money in college, that first check didn't come until he signed his pro contract.
Where I'm from in St. Louis is called Kinloch. Kinloch had the 5th highest crime rate per capita in the United States. So it was a bad place. It was just a poor neighborhood. I was like 12 years old, and a lot of people would go down by Busch Stadium under the overpass and wait for the players to park and go into the stadium.
Cardinals football player Vi Sekahima spotted Brooks in the crowd.
So, long story long, Vi's walking in, and he looks at me. He said, I just about see you every week, because my uncle would bring me up this. I just about see you every week, but you never come over to ask for tickets.
He had taken his shoe, and he had cut with either a razor or scissors the tip of the shoe off. I said, what's your name? He said, my name is Barry Brooks. I said, follow me.
He gave me my first pair of real name brand shoes, but he opened me up to a side of the world that I never saw before. And I go in this locker room, I see, these guys are rich. People are just glorifying these guys. I'm like, look, I want some of this too. I want to be a part of this too. And it kind of opened the door on taking sports more serious. That's where I developed that mantra of whatever I do it to the best of my ability. That's whether me being a man, a son, a father, left tackle, whatever it is, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
Brooks made his opportunities along the way, but the challenges were constant, including the responsibilities of being a father to a young son at the age of 18.
I had my son, Romel, my freshman year. So how am I supposed to pay child support for my son if I can't get a job and I can't work? So I was cutting hair to pay child support. People understand, there are other things that are involved with being a scholarship athlete.
There's a lot of money made off black athletes, off brown athletes, and they don't see any of it. But when you're in our shoes, you got classes, you got life, you got sports, it's not easy,
And if you are in a sport like track and field, where we're pretty much year round, so you can't work normal hours, you can't work a 9 to 5 because you're taking classes and you have practice. Most people would say if you're devoting 20 to 40 hours to something, you should probably be compensated for that.
And there's no guarantee of a payday in the pros, even for the top players in college. Kevin Ware plays professional basketball overseas in England. He was once a star player at the University of Louisville.
The University of Louisville, it was real easy. It's a strict schedule. You got your classes usually in the morning. You'll get a study break with your tutor in between, and then have another class and get ready for practice. It was kind of like that every day.
Playing against Duke in the NCAA college basketball tournament, Ware's life abruptly changed in a single shocking moment.
Oh my goodness. That is a gruesome looking injury to Kevin Ware.
It was the worst thing for me. All these NBA teams building a resume. It was more like, all right, what now?
The devastating leg injury thrust Ware into the national spotlight. Condolences came pouring in from all over. NBA players LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and Kevin Durant all took to Twitter with messages of support.
A lot of good and unwanted attention came from me.
The unwanted attention came in the form of a $25 t-shirt sold by Adidas with Ware's number 5 and the slogan, "Rise to the occasion." Fans purchased the shirt in droves to show their support. Little did they know that none of the proceeds went to Ware.
Louisville made ridiculous amounts of money off of me around the NCAA tournament. Basically, after I got hurt, the Duke game, it was a lot of went for Ware merchandise that Adidas was making.
It was a marketing decision. He was exploited then by both the school that he played at and the sneaker company that was under contract with that school.
After public backlash, Louisville waived any royalties, which just meant all of the money from the shirt sales went to Adidas.
Exploiting an 18-year-old for the money of a shirt that you're selling is really bad politics.
I'm good today, but no compensation or nothing like that from the NCAA.
Ware plays professionally in Europe, but that's a way off from his original goal of NBA stardom. Most of the young black men who see sports as a way out of poverty fall short. Only 2% of college athletes go on to play in the pros.
If you look at the percentages of the people that get to professional sports, it's so small. And then the people that remain in professional sports and actually make a consistent living is also very small. You see a ton of injuries, and it's a dangerous game.
Current actor and former Washington Husky Joel McHale began to reconsider his football future after witnessing a particularly horrific injury to a teammate.
I saw a guy dislocate his hip, and that really woke me up. He was screaming like a baby, and he was like 6'6", 280 pounds, monster of an athlete. And I remember going like, I'm either going to do this or I should leave and do acting.
It's Malcolm Brown. Oh, what a great open field hit.
It just takes one play. There are so many athletes that go out and they're playing in college with the objective of making it to a professional team. But that professional dream gets tore away from them because they have a life-changing injury.
Brooks is one of those rare success stories who survived the gauntlet of college sports to play in the NFL. At Kansas State, he sometimes went to extremes to earn a few bucks to get by.
Honestly, I would go and I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I would go and give blood on one side of town to get 15 bucks on a Friday, the night before a game. But then I go to the other side of town and go give blood the next week, and I still go play on Saturday. All those times I'm playing in those games on Saturdays, I gave blood the day before. I mean, I might have been a first rounder if I had to give that blood, but I didn't have any money.
Black football and basketball players graduate at 22 and 37% lower than the undergraduate population. And so it just shows that there's this really unequal opportunity to not only get an education, but also attain graduation.
When you have to pay to help your mom back home, and you're a college student, you know, hey, if I don't do this, if I don't work, I don't eat. If I don't make a way for my mom, you know, I mean, she may not be able to pay bills. You know, I mean, that's literally what these kids are going through. They need an opportunity to not go through what I went through. You know, no kid should have to give blood. No kid should have to go through that. No kid should be living on a diet of oodles and noodles every night. You shouldn't have to work that hard.
So what if long-suffering college athletes started to fight back, to stand up to this system of economic and racial oppression? Coming up, a movement of athletes crusade for change.
I saw myself on a video game. He says, we paid X amount of dollars for it, for the video game, and you didn't get one penny.
African-American men are the driving force behind the biggest money makers in college sports, football and basketball. These same young athletes that see sport as their path to a better life are often at the greatest risk for exploitation. As a way to highlight the level of inequality, I can tell you, I'm a white guy who grew up with supportive parents and a life of opportunity, but that still didn't shield me from being victimized by the NCAA system.
I'll never forget when I got the legal brief that said Jeremy Bloom versus the National Collegiate Athletic Association. And I felt very strongly to the core of my soul that what they were asking me to do was not fair, not just, not right.
In order to play at the University of Colorado, I had to abide by the NCAA's strict rules governing amateurism and give up my endorsement deals that funded my ski career.
Think about how expensive it is. I was traveling to Finland, to Sweden, to Japan, and trying to fund all this by scraping up nickels, basically. And so after 2 years of playing at the NCAA level for the University of Colorado, not accepting any endorsements, but still skiing World Cup, I couldn't fund it anymore. I was in debt. And so about in January of that year, I told the NCAA I was accepting endorsements. I was training for the 2006 Olympics, and I had no intention to leave the University of Colorado. And if they wanted me out, they gotta come and they gotta kick me out, because I am not leaving on my own accord.
I then filed a lawsuit asking the NCAA for an exception to earn endorsement money for my Olympic ski career.
We thought we had a slam dunk case. Our judge just happened to be a season ticket holder for the University of Colorado football team for 35 years. But the NCAA is crafty. There's a bylaw called 19.8. And 19.8 states that if any judge makes a decision for a student athlete, and that decision is ever overturned, Supreme Court level, federal level, at any point in time, all the games that student athlete played in, all the revenue that the schools made while that player was playing would have to be given back and the wins would need to be forfeited. Think about that for a second. What judge, especially a Boulder district judge who is a CU football fan, is going to put so much faith in his ruling that if my case was ever overturned, CU would forfeit every game that I played in and have to give back all revenue, ticket sales, TV contracts. And basically his ruling was, this is ridiculous, but I cannot put the University of Colorado at risk of this bylaw that the NCAA created to eliminate judges' ability to rule in any fair direction for a student athlete.
Banned from playing college football, I lost my scholarship and left school to focus on skiing.
They declared me permanently ineligible and took away my opportunity to be the #1 receiver on my junior and senior football season. And to think that it wasn't because I was too small. It wasn't because I wasn't good enough. It wasn't because my coach didn't want me to ski, or my teammates didn't want me to ski, or that I was getting an unfair deal. It was because of an organization in Indianapolis who I had never met a single person at who told me I couldn't do it and take away what I worked so hard for. That was my dream. That was my ability, not theirs. They had no right to do that. Absolutely no right to do it, and they did it. And guess what? They didn't have to answer to anybody. They're the judge, the jury, and the executioner, and what they say goes.
Are you still angry? Are you crusading against the NCAA because the weird? They wouldn't let him play college football because he wanted to be an Olympic skier, and they said that makes you professional. You can't play college football. Can you guys believe that? These guys should make those decisions, not some pencilhead down in Kansas City.
So yeah, it was a very unpopular decision, and my case started a path for student-athlete rights.
For UCLA, a 6'8" senior, number 31, Ed O'Bannon.
Others picked up the fight. Most importantly, Ed O'Bannon, a star basketball player who led UCLA to a 1995 national championship.
Ed O'Bannon is a former UCLA basketball player who later on saw his image being used in a video game produced by EA Sports, NCAA college basketball.
The O'Bannon case was a huge factor in people looking at this differently and driving a change in public opinion.
Tries for two, perfectly executed.
I saw myself on a video game. He says, we paid X amount of dollars for it, for the video game, and you didn't get one penny.
I think the Ed O'Bannon case is particularly shocking because you're talking about video games on such a wide scope.
I mean, I can remember back in the day, I still have kids that say, oh, I played with you, you weren't that good. Well, so what? Well, I'm thinking to myself, you played with me, I didn't get paid for it, so how's that fair, you know?
So Ed lines up a lawyer and becomes the lead plaintiff in a class action suit brought against the NCAA. The NCAA lost. The ruling said that the NCAA rules violated antitrust law.
They actually don't make that game anymore, in part because Ed O'Bannon sued the NCAA over their rules on compensating athletes and won.
In 2013, EA Sports stopped making college football and basketball video games, and as part of a class action settlement, sent thousands of checks to former athletes.
It shined a huge spotlight on the hypocrisy that exists inside the NCAA and really lit a spark down this path that we've been going on now for a couple decades.
Now, 15 years after I was forced to leave the University of Colorado, Brittany Collins is continuing the David and Goliath story that others like myself and Ed O'Bannon started. She's choosing to fight back.
The current procedural system for a student athlete to dispute interpretations of the NCAA bylaw is flawed.
I kind of went from confused to emotional to angry. I thought, I just can't let this play out in the way that they want it to play out, the NCAA, and so I immediately said, I don't want to be silent about this. I'm going to put together a petition.
Hi, my name is Brittany Collins. I am a 2017 graduate from the University of Massachusetts. I'm here just to speak on behalf of the UMass tennis program.
I had no idea where it would go, if it would go anywhere. Our petition started to be shared like crazy.
Former tennis player at UMass Amherst is taking on the NCAA and trying to restore her good name.
She started a petition to restore these records for herself
and her former teammates.
Immediately, the Boston Globe contacted me saying, "We would love to talk to you."
This is an asinine decision by the NCAA.
Dick Vitale, tweeting with him and just having his support has been incredible. Sports Illustrated, podcasts on the Tennis Channel.
The whole thing doesn't really make sense, let alone the fact that they're vacating seasons and punishing student athletes for something they did nothing wrong.
I love Brittany because she's fighting. She's even going to testify in front of Congress.
Connecting with Jeremy and hearing about other people's cases have kind of given me the strength because, there's strength in numbers. And I think as we continue this fight, standing together makes a huge difference. So having the support from them has been really just encouraging for me.
And the fight is far from over. EA Sports has announced plans for their college sports video games to return.
It's back. The college football game that fans have begged EA Sports to bring back is returning.
They wanted to take the money from it, and they knew that the player likenesses were being used in that way. But the truth is they didn't care because they thought they could get away with it.
The NCAA still fiercely guards its rules for amateurism. The Ed O'Bannon case netted players a few checks, but the system remains the same. Athletes must make money for others, but never themselves.
The NCAA is still fighting tooth and nail against it.
Coming up, inside the NCAA's fight to keep the cash flowing.
I think it's criminal. Like you're stealing the image and likeness of these kids.
A movement to change the fundamentals of big-time college sports has long been underway. The O'Bannon case was a small victory. The NCAA was in violation of antitrust law. By denying payments to college athletes for the use of their likeness in the EA Sports video game franchise, the NCAA was acting as a monopoly.
Although Ed O'Bannon won the case, it didn't really give the athletes that much more than they were already getting. It got them a few $1,000s. Now, when you've had a system in place for 100 years, it's hard to say, I'm going to be the judge that blows this all up and says we should have a free market for athletes. So instead, the judges, did some tweaks and said, you ought to be able to do this and do that, but you still can't be paid.
College athletes still could not earn money on their own likeness through endorsement deals, and recently, EA Sports announced the planned return of NCAA video games.
But there's something sort of inane about it because they're going to bring it back without using any identifiable players.
Critics say by removing name and likeness of actual players, EA Sports and the NCAA licensing company hopes to sidestep the O'Bannon ruling and avoid paying college athletes.
Now, my kid, if he couldn't identify Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady in those games, he wouldn't be interested. I mean, it just shows how far the NCAA will go to avoid having to compensate the people who make this all possible, which is the players.
I think it's criminal. Like you're stealing the image and likeness of these kids, and the kids don't care. They're gonna be like, "Oh, I'm on a video game," because I was on a video game. I was number 27 on Tennessee. I was doing it, but I just didn't realize. I was like, "Yo, hold on, wait a minute."
Senator Chris Murphy called it a grave injustice and says that college athletes should be free to make endorsement deals using what's legally known as one's name, image, and likeness.
I think it's ridiculous that students who are, essentially professionals aren't able to make money off of their name or their image or their likeness, and they should have the full right to do that.
I don't know how anyone can be comfortable with the idea of owning someone else's name, image, and likeness, and you're not really paying them. It's exploitative and it's frustrating.
Rick George, the athletic director at the University of Colorado, opposes paying players directly in the form of salaries.
Well, I'm just going to say I'm not in favor of paying student athletes. I just don't see where that will ever work. We're not paying students on our campus, and so paying student athletes is not something that we're considering.
But in a change from the hardline amateurism of the past, George does agree with Senator Murphy and others. College athletes should be able to make money through endorsement deals.
I think this is a natural next step for us. Our student athletes should have the same abilities that our students do to monetize their name, image, and likeness. And if they can do it in a way that protects the integrity of recruiting and competition, I'm all for it.
Not all agree. Cody McDavis faced some of the same economic hardships that burdened other D1 athletes.
I come from a background of a single mother, worked 3 jobs to raise me.
Despite the help it could have offered him, McDavis doesn't believe he, nor others like him, deserve the right to make money while still playing college ball.
What I think it all comes down to is this widening gap between who has access to resources for athletes and who doesn't. There's a lot of athletes in college sports that are incredibly talented, like yourself, like Zion Williamson. We want them to benefit from their likeness, but what we don't realize is these guys are not your average athlete in the NCAA.
And are you saying you're worried that there's not enough money in corporate America?
What ends up happening is money is taken away from schools for the purposes of giving it to a large swath of athletes, and it's given to one single athlete. Let's choose Colorado, for example. Nike pays the University of Colorado so that they can have the Nike swoosh on all of the gear. It can choose, do I want to give money to Colorado or do I want to give money to Jeremy Bloom? If Jeremy Bloom is bigger than Colorado, I'm gonna give my money to Jeremy Bloom. Colorado now has less.
Rick George disagrees with this being a zero-sum problem, that for the athletes to get some, the schools must get less.
I think there's a way to do it. Will there be conflicts? Potentially, but it's done in professional sports, and I think there's a way to do it.
So this isn't about taking money away from athletic budgets to pay student athletes. This is literally about giving student athletes the same rights of other students at the University of Colorado.
That's exactly right.
What are the potential negative impacts that this might create, or things to think about?
You know, we don't want booster involvement. I think there's a concern about that. We'll have to work through and figure that out.
For some, if the concern is the corrupting influence of money, sunlight, as they say, is the best disinfectant.
My argument is simple. There's all kinds of money being handed around under the table. Why is it so much worse to take that money from under the table and put it on the table? Why is that worse?
Former NFL running back Arian Foster says he took illegal payments while starring at the University of Tennessee.
Back then, there was no way for us to get any kind of extra income, right? So say I wanted to grab a new pair of jeans, or say I wanted to take a lady out to dinner and a movie, like I didn't have money to do that.
So was money exchanged under the table?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. I know I did. I took illegal benefits every chance I got. I got flown out. I stayed in hotels.
Is that common?
Not only is it common, it's mandatory.
The money usually comes from boosters, the deep-pocketed school supporters who want the very best players for their teams.
Let's just bring it above board. The NCAA created this underground black market economy by its rule structure. And it can come above board in 2 seconds. People just don't give money away. It'll be done via contract, and it'll operate the way the rest of commerce in America does.
Others say paying players would tarnish the purity of college athletics.
As far as paying players, professionalizing college athletics, that's where you lose me. I'll go do something else because, there's enough entitlement in this world as it is.
I think if you start paying people, I think it changes the authenticity and the realness and the passion of college football.
But does it? There's an incredibly successful model for doing exactly that.
Just hours after Gabby Douglas won the gold last night, here it is, vaulted onto the cereal boxes.
I mean, this is the pinnacle. This is the pinnacle, really. If you ask most Olympians, yeah, you want to win a gold medal, but why do you want to win a gold medal? Because you want a Wheaties box.
Sarah Hirschlin is the new CEO at the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee.
Why is endorsements such a good thing for Olympic athletes?
Well, it's funding. The cost and sacrifice to be a full-time elite level athlete is hugely significant.
So would you agree that the NCAA has a lot to learn from the Olympic model through their transition from amateur?
I think there absolutely are pieces of the puzzle that can be mimicked, if you will. And the hope and the challenge for all of us is to frame this not in how do I protect the revenue I have, but how do we, as a collective, grow the revenue we obtain? And that's a mental shift. And NCAA institutions have to recognize that sport is not there to be a profit loss center. Sport is a part of the student-athlete experience, an exceptional component of their development as a human being, and not look at them from the perspective of, can this make money or not?
Do you feel a sense of confidence now with the way the world is heading in college athletics?
I will tell you, I am hopeful and I am optimistic. I don't know that I would go all the way to confidence because I think there's a lot of work to do. There are systems in place that are going to require real significant change.
The rules over amateurism and player compensation aren't the only founding pillar of the NCAA system now under scrutiny. This past year, players took to the field during a global pandemic. Did an organization originally founded to protect athletes instead recklessly put them in danger? Coming up.
We have our team back. They're ready to go. We need football. We need to play. The state needs it. The country needs it.
We've seen players die.
It just goes to show it doesn't matter about the health or welfare of the player. It's more so the money-making machine has the role.
All but a handful of states have issued stay-at-home orders.
Major cities across the country are looking more like ghost towns.
The COVID-19 crisis revealed just how far the NCAA was willing to go to keep the cash grab going. As the global pandemic became a reality, unimaginable scenes filled our daily lives. Schools and businesses closed, pro sports teams were called off.
Due to unforeseen circumstances, the game tonight has been postponed.
So the Jazz and Thunder will not play the game here tonight.
America went into lockdown. Despite the obvious dangers, early in the summer of 2020, big-time college football pledged that they would play their upcoming seasons.
We're the ones that have to go out there and put our bodies on the line.
We have our team back. They're ready to go. We need football. We need to play. The state needs it. The country needs it.
We're still not sure, right, about what's going on with this virus, and they're saying, but go play. Go play for us.
Well, our government has been telling us not to travel. Athletes are traveled all over the country to play football and basketball. And they're doing that for one reason, one primary reason, that's money. It's not just so, quote unquote, the kids can play.
The pandemic absolutely helped open a lot of eyes. I think for the first time, student athletes had time.
These are athletes first and students second. ESPN can't let these games not be played. The shoe companies cannot let these games not be played. The sports betting companies cannot let these games not be played. And so they are going to be put on come hell or high water, no matter how inconvenient it is for the student.
I think the coronavirus pandemic reaffirmed for me that not just the NCAA, but the institutions themselves and the people who run them, the athletic directors, the coaches, care very little about the long-term well-being of the student athletes that they are working with, where we see players being infected every week.
Breaking news out of Clemson, South Carolina. Star quarterback Trevor Lawrence has apparently tested positive for COVID-19.
Star players like Trevor Lawrence at Clemson having to be sidelined with no intention of stopping.
When I look back at this over the years, I'm going to look back and say, I cannot believe this. This was very much like almost a military commitment.
You see these cases growing, 8 at Alabama, 1 at Arkansas, Auburn, Baylor, a number of players at Clemson. Are we going to be able to play college football in the fall?
You're kind of in a bind because, you love playing your sport, but at the same time, there's a dangerous factor that comes with it, you might not know you have an underlying condition. So it was definitely a risk going out there. It's just oh, what if today is a day, that I happen to get COVID?
The NCAA does not release COVID numbers, but an analysis by the New York Times last year showed at least 6,000 corona cases among the ranks of major college football programs.
Friends, teammates, classmates, all grieving the loss of 20-year-old Jermaine Stevens, and he died due to complications from COVID-19.
In September, football player Jermaine Stevens became the first known COVID death among NCAA athletes. There is also the unknown impact of contracting COVID that could have long-term and potentially debilitating consequences for young athletes. An Ohio State study found that 1/3 of the athletes in the Big Ten Conference who tested positive for COVID have myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart.
It can be fatal if it's left unattended. We don't know the impact.
There are players that are developing heart conditions that are a direct result of being infected by the coronavirus. Their health insurance is covered by the institution, but it's season to season and not long term.
Currently, players do not receive long-term health coverage. Any future ailment from COVID or other on-the-field injuries must be dealt with on their own.
They don't give a shit about the health of players. They don't care about the health of the players, or else they give them health coverage. They don't care.
With safe playing conditions and proper health care lacking, many have looked to Congress to intervene.
Shouldn't the first priority be the safety of our athletes? Don't tell me you represent athletes' interest and then put them in situations where they could have serious life-altering impacts.
Senator Cory Booker and a group of other U.S. senators have proposed a new College Athlete Bill of Rights, sweeping reform that would provide players with more time to complete their education, more money through endorsement deals, and the greatest prize of all, long-term health care.
Why is that important, and what is the NCAA not doing about that?
Now that I'm years later seeing the impact of people who've had head injuries, spine injuries, knee, shoulder, and see these folks going into their own pockets to have to pay for the continued medical needs of their lives because of what they did for their sport. The healthcare aspects of this is so urgent to me because the foundation of all of this should be the safety and well-being of athletes, especially given all that we know right now.
The lasting impact of head trauma from playing sports such as football is a key component of why Senator Booker and others are demanding some sort of long-term health care for former college players.
Wow, he is not moving there. My dad was a football coach when I was born, so I was going to play no matter what.
Casey Cochran is a former college quarterback for the University of Connecticut.
When you take that 1% of high school athletes that can play in college football, then the game becomes this whole nother level, the size of everyone. As a quarterback, I was getting hit as hard as possible. It's a car accident, basically, and the human body isn't meant to stand up to it.
Cochran was forced to leave football after suffering his 13th concussion.
When I was young, I'd laugh at those dying for one more sip. Now that I've grown older, find a bottle on my hip.
A concussion is your most emotional you've ever been. That feeling strikes you with this terror and awful head pressure, and it's like a flu and a fight and just an anxiety attack all in one. As soon as I came to, every time.
I'd stop, but I'm not able.
You come into the program, you pay your dues. When you leave, you leave. You know, that is the system, that is the culture. I was able to have a really lucky road where I had my mom who could put me on her health insurance. After I was done with UConn and college, I still needed to get help. I still needed to see doctors and see my therapist. And if you've had 4 years with this incredible support group, and now you're just on your own and have to figure it out with no resources really, it's almost impossible. And that's how devastating those injuries can be, but it's also how brutal the system is.
Cochran's head injuries have made everyday life a permanent struggle.
Oh my goodness. That is a gruesome-looking injury to Kevin Ware.
But even players like Kevin Ware, who recovered from a horrific leg injury in college to play professional basketball overseas, still carry deep, unseen wounds.
I've never had any life-changing injuries like that before. I'll just wake up in the middle of the night, fully in pain in my leg, and it's because I got a metal rod and it's getting cold. The pain sometimes is unbearable. I wish the rod could just go away, truly.
That's a really raw deal for the student. I think this is a really important part of our Bill of Rights. And so that's why we're in a position right now where the change has to be forced from the outside.
The College Athlete Bill of Rights and the possibility of long-term health insurance will be debated on the Senate floor this year. While players wait to see if they'll have help paying future medical bills, state governments have been working on new laws to get more money into their pockets now by lifting NCAA restrictions on endorsement deals.
Governor Gavin Newsom announced Monday that he had signed the Fair Pay to Play Act.
Now law in California.
California's Fair Pay to Play Act is being hailed as a game changer.
Athletes will be able to earn money from things like advertising and social media.
Coming up, could the unthinkable be just around the corner? Players cashing in on their talents while still in college.
It's going to change college sports for the better.
In September 2019, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed the Fair Pay to Play Act, the first state law challenging the NCAA's long-held rules barring athlete endorsement deals.
Now law in California.
Numerous other states followed suit, including my home state of Colorado. Leading the charge was State Senator Jeff Bridges.
We needed to send a message to this giant, multi-billion-dollar organization. We got their attention, for sure. And this was a clear message from the Colorado legislature saying, give these kids the opportunity that they deserve. And they get such a tiny percentage of what it is that's being earned by all these folks. It's exploitative. In some ways, it's even predatory.
The first state laws giving athletes the right to make endorsement deals will go into effect this year. In July, in the state of Florida, new state legislation is going to be enacted that allows student athletes to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. So YouTube, you can do that. Endorsement contract, you can do that. So the next Donald that comes to UCF will be able to do exactly what he was kicked out for doing. It might be too late for Donald Delahaye, but he's encouraged by the change he's helped bring about.
It sounds like you really fought for a principle. You didn't think you were doing anything wrong.
I know I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was nothing but inspiring people and showing them, like, hey, if you work hard, you could do this that I'm doing right now, being an athlete. Be something bigger than yourself. And at the end of the day, the NCAA saw the money and that they couldn't control the money coming in.
They don't want change. That's the worst thing that could happen to the NCAA is change starts, and that's what's happening. Change is starting to come, so now they're starting to panic a little bit.
Experts say social media is probably where athletes will earn the most money. There's TikTok, there's Snapchat, there's Instagram. So there's all these revenue streams now for everybody in our society to pick up their phones and make a name for themselves.
You can go to work for McDonald's after school, or you can go on social media and try to be an influencer.
Yeah, I definitely take advantage of the social media aspect of it because, I do use Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and just knowing that just from a picture I could get paid, that's something that just sounds good.
Top high school recruit Rafael Castro is hoping basketball might mean a better life for him and his family.
I'm trying to just move my family out of Dover, I think about it every game. That's probably what keeps me going on that court. That's what's going to change my life ultimately.
With possible endorsement deals, he might be part of the first class of NCAA players to cash in while still in college.
There are revenue streams that are going to open up that we can't even imagine right now.
I wouldn't have to wait so long to get paid for doing what I do.
So who will help young players like Castro monetize their image? There's going to be this new breed of startup that supports college student athletes and their ability to make money locally. Former Nebraska college football player Blake Lawrence co-founded Open Doors almost 10 years ago. Companies like his are poised to help college athletes turn their followers and likes into revenue.
He just posted this today. 147,000 views already. More athletes need to understand that this is their window, and if they have the opportunities to monetize in that window, student athletes are going to learn that they themselves have value.
Pro Bowl wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster is one of thousands of professional athletes now using their platform.
Intercepted Nebraska! Blake Lawrence, number 4.
Lawrence says his experience as a former college football player makes him uniquely suited to help NCAA athletes.
As a student athlete myself, I went through an experience where I was a starting linebacker one day, and the next day I could never play football again. My whole livelihood and my whole identity was tied to sports, and it was gone in an instant. For most athletes, this is the only time that they have the ability to really capitalize on their own marketing value. If they're not equipped to monetize that moment in time in their life, I think they're missing out.
The more followers an athlete has, the more money they stand to make.
So you get an alert to your phone. An advertiser will pay you $5,000 to send out this video to your 100,000 followers on Twitter. You hit a green button, put your phone back in your pocket, and our technology sends out the message and the payment straight to the athlete's pocket.
Some have already begun to speculate on the earning potential. In some cases, the sponsored posts of women athletes may be worth more than the men.
If you're able to get your account up to 500,000 followers, then you have a value to some potential sponsors, and there are opportunities there. I think one of the biggest differences between male and female athletes is that most female athletes, their time to take advantage of their athletic abilities is during college, because the professional opportunities just aren't there in the same way.
There's an untapped market not only for female athletes, but for everybody. The narrative has been that only Zion Williamson and Trevor Lawrence are going to benefit, and that's just not true.
That role player that will never get on the podium might be the best damn YouTuber you've ever seen. And so it almost creates this equalizing opportunity. Yeah, you might get the podium, right? But I got the podcast.
Former Washington Huskies football player Joel McHale says his lack of talent on the football field wouldn't have stopped him from trying to make endorsement deals.
Yeah, it would be like, this walk-on encourages you to walk into a Subway and grab a 6-inch sub. I'm the worst player on the Huskies, but this is the best teriyaki at the university. Stop.
Along with more endorsements for all athletes, not just the star quarterbacks, supporters say the work of online brand building is just great training for life after college.
You know, we exist in a digital world now, and so these are life skills. You know, teaching athletes and allowing them to leverage their platforms now and learn while they're in school really makes them valuable to any employer.
The NCAA doesn't agree. In fact, they've brought a case all the way to the Supreme Court in hopes of shutting down any further money-making opportunities for college athletes.
Just in from the Supreme Court, they have agreed to hear a case on pay for college athletes.
Some are calling it the NCAA's last stand. Coming up.
I don't know why the NCAA, continues to want to die on this hill. And now they're going to have to stand up in front of the Supreme Court and say amateurism is a bedrock principle.
If they don't figure this out, it could potentially be the end of the NCAA. This could be their extinction moment.
I've been on a mission to find out why college sports now puts making money above all else. I've met YouTube kickers, aggrieved tennis champs, and U.S. senators, all united on one common goal: to change how the NCAA operates and to make sure the next generation of athlete earns what they deserve. The Supreme Court is now hearing a class action suit that will have far-reaching impact on whether college athletes will get paid in NCAA sport.
The future of college athletics is going to be decided right here in D.C. by the highest court in the land.
The debate on whether and how to pay student athletes certainly accelerated dramatically this week, with both the Supreme Court and the U.S. Senate signaling that they plan to weigh in.
Many see this as the NCAA's last stand as they make their final fight for amateurism.
Now they're going to have to stand up in front of the Supreme Court and say amateurism is a bedrock principle.
Really, what they want the Supreme Court to do is to say amateurism is legal and it's the law of the land.
Hoping to stop the NCAA is lawyer Jeffrey Kessler. Arguing in front of the Supreme Court, Kessler is leading a class action suit filed by former college football player Sean Alston.
Most of these players will never have another opportunity to reap these economic benefits unless they can do it at the college level. And yet we have the colleges come together and say the one thing you can't do is provide more compensation, more benefits to these athletes. We think that's illegal and we think it's wrong.
Football and basketball players exist on a campus to make money for the university. And once you accept that fact, then you have to say, how can not paying them be justified?
The NCAA doesn't want to do this. They don't want to provide the athlete with anything. And they say they do, but do their actions suggest that that's true? It's not true.
A lot of people are saying that this Supreme Court case is the NCAA's last gasp. What's at stake?
The NCAA, I think the walls are closing in. This is violating values, from the free market to just the moral obligation we should have to people who create wealth. I don't care what your perspective, something's wrong with this.
The NCAA is in a corner, and they've put themselves in that corner.
Those crusading to bring change to the NCAA hope that regardless of the Supreme Court ruling, we've reached a tipping point. My journey, at least in college, kind of ended here in Washington, D.C. when I was asked to testify at Congress based off my experiences. And I think about passing the baton to all these people that played significant roles in where we are today.
These things are interwoven. The value of a collegiate athlete is in part the value of that athlete as an individual and in part what the school has helped create. We need to be at the table together because none of us survive if all of us don't survive.
Amen to that.
I hope that there's a grand bargain that puts athletes at the center of it. The things that need to change and have needed to change for decades.
I respect Dr. Emmerich in saying, hey, we're going to try to address that, but where is the urgency that this has been going on in decades in America?
I think we are close to getting to a point where, it's the red zone now that we might be able to get this over the end line and score a point for justice.
Change is coming.
God willing, for lots of athletes, change is coming.
Years in the making, the culture of exploitation in college athletics might finally be coming to an end.
Sports, it crosses all barriers. Race, creed, color, religion. So because of that, it's a dynamic way of interjecting what you want the world to know. All the injustice that's been happening behind closed doors. We're more than just athletes. We're men, we're women. We have an identity.
The shift is gonna have to happen within the culture in order for it to change.
As college athletes, we were awakened to the power our voice really has.
And there's no closing that door. The NCAA is not going to be able to go back and retroactively get rid of that knowledge now that these players have. And the schools and the NCAA are going to have to follow suit.
And this is just wrong. It has to end. It's time that we bring real justice to college sports.
Without student athletes, the NCAA doesn't exist. Nobody's showing up at the stadiums without the kids. Nobody's buying tickets without the kids. There's no TV revenue without the kids. Without student athletes, none of this exists.